Well, sorry I've been gone for a few days. Hope you guys have been able to get by without some new content on this channel, but rest assured, the Schlite Daddy is back. A lot more NFL and other sports-related content to come on this channel in the weeks and months ahead. So it's about that time for me to do a Q&A, Thursday Q&A edition. Why not? Let's dive right in. Thanks for you guys submitting your questions and waiting for them to get answered. I'm going to try and answer as many of these questions that haven't been answered yet as I possibly can. Let's see here. Jay McClurg, 9243, asked, who should I start at my wide receiver position this week? Emmanuel Sanders, Terrence Williams, or Steve Smith? Let me look at the matchups here really quickly. I'm just kind of getting caught up with everything. So, again, you have to bear with me. You got Terrence Williams is going against the Jaguars. Steve Smith is going against the Titans. Or Emmanuel Sanders is going against Oakland. Honestly, without reading too much into it and over-analyzing, all three of those matchups are incredibly appealing. Maybe Steve Smith gets the slight edge only because of the fact he's his team's #1 wide receiver. But, man, Emmanuel Sanders going against Oakland, Terrence Williams going against Jacksonville, Smith going against the Titans. Those are all really good matchups. So whoever you start this week, you have to feel pretty good about their chances of having at least a decent day. I wouldn't overthink it too much. In your case, pick an individual and stick with them and just pray for the best. Matt Meffe 2, thoughts on Joe Madden becoming the Cubs manager? Had a lot of questions and posts and comments about this I've seen over the past several days, and I plan on doing a video about this soon. I will say that Renteria got a bit of a Jew job, a hose job, whatever you want to call it. He got jobbed. But at the same point in time, it's not every day a manager of the quality of a Joe Madden becomes available on the market. This, to me, has me excited to a similar level as when the Cubs hired Dusty Baker before the 2003 season. For all the things people can say about Dusty Baker, he was a franchise changer for some ways for the Cubs. I mean, it was a big deal when he came to manage the Chicago Cubs. And he was a franchise changer. He changed expectations. He helped change the entire culture around that organization during his time. There's no doubt about that. And I'd expect Joe Madden to do the same thing. And I think it's a great choice in terms of his familiarity with working with younger players and helping develop younger players. So I think it's a good fit, at least for the time being. But again, I'll do a video talking more about it. The Owens asked, just traded Carson Palmer and benched, or traded for Carson Palmer and benched Phillip Rivers. Smart move. Might be a bit of an overreaction. I mean, he did have Phillip Rivers. It's not going to be a situation most seasons where even the best of fantasy quarterbacks are going to have 16 studly games. There are going to be some really good. There are going to be some solid. There's going to be not so good. Maybe a couple of really bad. I don't know if he needed to trade for Carson Palmer, though, if he had Phillip Rivers. So I would not classify that as a smart move. With that said, I don't know what you gave up. If I knew what you gave up to get Carson Palmer, what type of deal we're talking about, then I could make a better opinion. Then you also asked, biggest upset in sports history. I still think the biggest upset in sports history has to be the U.S. men's hockey team in 1980. Beating the Soviets in the semifinal round, the Miracle on Ice, as it's called. It's called the Miracle on Ice for a reason. Even though that's not the first time, I believe, that the U.S. Olympic hockey team beat the Soviets. I think they did it back in Squaw Valley in 1960, if I'm not mistaken, which would be an equally big upset. But 80's got a different buzz about it. But that's a pretty significant upset. Pretty significant. I mean, there have been others throughout the years. NC State beating Phi Slamma Jamma in '83 in the title game. That's another one that jumps to my mind. Villanova beating Georgetown in '85. A Georgetown team led by Patrick Ewing, and Villanova, whose best player was Ed Pinckney. But in terms of biggest upsets, like on an epic level, I think you got to go with the Miracle on Ice in 1980. I am Justin Dunbar. Haven't been online in a while. Everything good? Yeah, everything's good. I believe I was putting the word out there that I was getting ready to move. So, moved over the weekend and waited for the internet to get put back installed here at the new place. So yeah, everything's good. Gravy, smooth, no lumps. Excited to be living in the house after all these years of living in an apartment. I'll put it to you that way. It feels very, very good right now. Janet Clark, 9243, also wanted to know who should I start in my flex this week? Denard Robinson, Odell Beckham, or Vincent Jackson? Denard Robinson has the potential to score both as a runner and as a pass catcher. Odell Beckham, who are the Giants playing this weekend? Like I said, again, I apologize. I haven't done that much. I'm just trying to get caught up. We'll be playing Seattle, so that's probably a no-go, but it's not a guarantee. Then Vincent Jackson is playing Atlanta. Maybe Robinson is the first option, Jackson number 2, and Beckham 3. Let's see here. Beam it to cash, man. Should I start Baltimore's defense this week? I currently have Philly. Maybe. Going against a rookie quarterback, yeah, I'd feel all right about starting Baltimore's defense this week. Madden God 45 says, my quarterback is on a bye this week. Which quarterback should I pick up? And then I'm looking at some of the options available to him, and it looks like it's Mike Glennon, Andy Dalton, Brian Hoyer, Ryan Tannehill, Mettenberger, Alex Smith, Austin Davis, Jay Cutler, Carson Palmer, Colin Kaepernick, Eli Manning, Kyle Orton, Derek Carr, Mark Sanchez. Interesting question. I wouldn't pick Cutler at this point because he's going against Green Bay, and that usually doesn't go well for him. I have a little bit of concern about Carson Palmer putting up big numbers against St. Louis because St. Louis's pass rush, I think, could cause him some troubles. Maybe you would roll with Kaepernick against New Orleans because I still don't think New Orleans defense is all that good. And maybe Kaepernick could put up some big points, on the ground. But again, I don't feel that good about that. Otherwise, I have to go with Andy Dalton. Thursday night matchup. You're talking about Andy Dalton going against Cleveland's doo-doo defense. I might have to say Andy Dalton might be the safest choice for you. You have Gator Chop 93. Do you think a 9-win team will win an AFC wild card? Or will it take 10 wins this year? The AFC is ultra competitive this year. There could be a wild card team with only 9 wins, but I agree with you at this point is that it might take 10. I don't know if it's super duper ultra competitive. I guess you could say competitive. I don't know if it's that much better compared to last year. But yeah, I mean, you look at it, the Patriots, the Colts, somebody out of the North, maybe the Bengals, then the Broncos, and then you look at the remaining teams in the mix for the wild card at this point, realistically, Miami and Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Cleveland, Kansas City, perhaps San Diego. I'd be surprised, honestly, if a 9-win team did make the wild card. And I will say, I do think the AFC is better than it was last year. Like I said, I still don't know if it's good as the NFC, though. And then you also asked, you have Gator Chomp 93 are the Eagles still favorites to win the NFC East with Sanchez at the helm? Because I think so. He's not some scrub after all. Well, ask Jets fans, but you know how I've talked about Sanchez in the past. But in my book, they're still favorites to win the East. I think Sanchez is a good fit for that scheme again. And I talked about this with Foles, and I talked about this with Chip Kelly when he came into the fold for the Eagles. And I mentioned the fact that there's always this notion around Chip Kelly and his offenses that they have to have this incredibly mobile, athletic quarterback, and that's not the case. Chip Kelly wants a guy that understands the game, that has good ball security, that makes good decisions, and Sanchez seems to be a little bit better in that area. I think he could be a short-term good fit for them. So, yeah, I think they're still the favorite. I've been the favorite in my eyes all year long, and I think they pretty much are who I expected them to be in some aspects. In some aspects, they've surprised me a little bit, both good and bad. So I'm not backing off of the pick. Viking fan for life. If AP comes back, do you think Minnesota can make the playoffs? And does Bridgewater have the potential to be a franchise quarterback? Well, I'll answer the second question first. I most certainly believe that Teddy Bridgewater has the potential to be a franchise quarterback. No doubt in my mind about that. I fully believe he has all the tools to be a franchise quarterback. I have concerns about whether or not he has the elite arm talent. I think he has very good arm talent. I'm not sure he has elite arm talent. My bigger concern for Bridgewater, though, is that he's trying to overcome the stigma of being an athletic black quarterback to the point where he's taking away from a strength of his game by trying to stubbornly stay in the pocket and be a passer. You see this happening a little bit with Geno Smith with the Jets. And I think Bridgewater has to understand you are athletic. You can make plays with your feet. There are times in the NFL where even the big immobile white pocket passers have to gain yards with their feet, can't be afraid to scramble. And if that's a part of your game, then don't take away from a part of your game. It just makes you that much more difficult to defend. As far as AP coming back and Minnesota make the playoffs, no, I don't think they're a good enough team to make the playoffs this year. Because again, you look at the NFC. I mean, you're talking about Philly and Dallas in the East, Detroit and Green Bay in the North, somebody out of the South, and then you still got Arizona, San Francisco, and Seattle in the West. And St. Louis is coming on a little bit. I don't see how Minnesota can get better than several of those teams to make the playoffs. Let's see here. Shaft. Mike Evans or Mohamed Sanu? Might say Sanu. Works of Mr. Hunter G. Can the Eagles' defense survive without DeMeco Ryans? It's not like they were exactly thriving with him to begin with. Let's be perfectly realistic. Can they survive without him? Yeah. What does that mean? Not much. But can they survive without him? I think so. Let's see here. Giannis 31 Skander. Are the 49ers in trouble missing the playoffs? Oh, you're goddamn right. 4-4 in the NFC is not a good place to be. They just... Thank you, Undertaker. It just doesn't seem like the Niners have it this year. They just are missing that spark. Kaepernick clearly has not progressed and developed. I think Vernon Davis has been pretty much a nothing, which really hurts that offense because that offense really only had Davis in terms of a vertical threat. I think part of the problem with their passing game also is that all of their wide receivers are basically the same type of player. Crabtree, Bolden, Stevie Johnson. They're all basically the same type of receiver no matter how much anybody tries to spin it. These people talk about these are great physical athletes. I don't know about that. They don't have that true stretch you down the field vertical threat. They don't have that shifty, quick, make-you-miss type of slot guy. The 49ers offense is far from perfect. And, defensively, they've played well at times throughout the year, but sometimes they just don't do enough. But they've played a lot better over the past few weeks. Alex Shirley 10 is Ben Roethlisberger in the MVP conversation. Steelers are 6-3. He's coming off of back-to-back 6-touchdown passing games. I think there's no question that he's in the MVP conversation right now. Fly Darius Flies, an Eagles fan. I don't think we'll miss a step from Foles to Sanchez. He looks reborn. Your thoughts? Yeah, it's not like Foles was exactly lighting the world on fire. So Sanchez doesn't have a lot to live up to. I really don't think you'll miss a step at this point. I really, really don't. Colorado MMA fan. Picked up Wes Welker off my waiver wire. Good move. My other wide receivers are Andre Johnson, Antonio Brown, and Steve Smith. What has Welker done to indicate that he's going to do anything the rest of the year? I mean, it's a worthy gamble if you drop some scrub, but I wouldn't get your hopes up about expecting too much. RJ_Gorman, would you start Cordero Patterson or Eric Decker? At this point, probably Eric Decker. Glorio Sports, Jerick McKinnon or Denard Robinson? I believe Jerick McKinnon's on a bye, so you probably want to start Denard Robinson. Bulls_Jane, do you think Antonio Brown is the best wide receiver in the league, and do you think he's in the MVP race? No and no. Top 5 wide receiver for sure. He's not in the MVP consideration as a wide receiver. I don't think so. But he's a stud, and I love his consistency. That's what I really like about Antonio Brown. Here's a guy that was a late round pick. He's obviously worked his ass off, and now he's one of the best polished all-around wide receivers in the National Football League. Something admirable and very respectable about that. Thanks to you guys that submitted your questions for this Sports Q&A. Reminder, I do these hopefully going forward as well every Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. Tuesday and Thursday, there will be partial sports, partial fantasy football Q&A videos. And then on the weekend, I shouldn't say Sunday, but sometime in the weekend, you get the solely fantasy football Q&A video where you're getting asked questions about strategy, trades, waiver wires, roster moves for the week, all of that stuff. So thanks again for submitting your questions. I'll be back with another Q&A very, 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 very soon.